My name is Jillian, and this is Jillian Camps Arizona, and today I'm going to be telling you an example of how to fill out the backcountry permit for a 4-day, 3-night excursion into the Grand Canyon. Night 1, you're going to be staying at Phantom Ranch. Night 2, also at Phantom Ranch, but you're going to be doing a side trip to Ribbon Falls. That's on the North Rim. It's about a 10-mile round-trip journey. Currently, the bridge is out, so you're going to have to wade across the creek, but it's also a beautiful hike up there. I did this in July of 2022. So we're going to be filling out the permit for that side hike. And then the 3rd night, you're going to be staying at what was called Indian Garden is now Havasupai Falls, and then finally climbing out. First, I wanted to read to you from the website, the NPS Grand Canyon website, the Backcountry Permit Office website. It's very helpful, full of such good information here. You should really read all of this, right? It's very important. So the main thing is that the backcountry permit, according to the website, is required for overnight camping outside of Mather Campground, Desert View Campground, and North Rim Campground. Guess what? They have the recreation.gov website for those campgrounds. So you have to go to that special website in order to reserve your campground, in order to reserve your campsite for those campgrounds. Backcountry permit is required for overnight camping in all sites at Two Weep Campground. Two Weep, as we know, is that campground that's very remote on the North Rim, what we would consider the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, if that makes sense. And backcountry permits required for overnight camping anywhere on the North Rim of the Grand Canyon National Park between October 16th and May 14th. Includes ski camping. That's because the North Rim closes mid-October, if that makes sense, because of snow, whichever comes first. If it snows first, guess what? They close the North Rim of the Grand Canyon because you cannot go to it. They don't plow up there. And you need off-river camping by river trip participants, overnight camping with private stock outside of Mather Campground. So basically, if you're using a horse or any type of private stock, pack rafting other than that, which occurs under a river permit. So you basically need a backcountry permit for any overnight camping below the rim, especially if you're camping at all below the rim in the Grand Canyon. You need a backcountry permit. That's required. A backcountry permit is not required for day hikes. This means that you go into the Grand Canyon and you climb out on the same day. No overnight camping or trying to steal a campsite for just a couple hours to take a nap. No, not allowed. Day stock hikes, this is if you're riding a horse into the Grand Canyon and out on the same day. Okay, overnight camping at Mather Campground and Desert View Campground. Again, we talked about that. You have to go to recreation.gov for those special campgrounds. Overnight camping at the North Rim Campground between June 9th and October 15th. Again, there's special considerations because on the North Rim, you can camp up there, but you have to use a backcountry permit in order to camp there during the winter months. Again, I would not recommend, especially if you're going to the Grand Canyon, I would recommend, especially your first time, to stay at the South Rim and do some hiking there, or to start your itinerary always from the South Rim. It's a lot easier to figure out, okay? And then it just says you do not need a permit for overnight stays at the dormitories or cabins at Phantom Ranch. Advanced reservations with Grand Canyon National Park lodges is required. That's with Xanterra. You go to xanterra.com, go to Grand Canyon National Park lodges, or I think it's Grand Canyon National Park lodges.com, and you reserve the site there. Phantom Ranch Lodge, we won't really cover this here, but I'll cover it very minorly here. Those open, so like it's June right now, that means you can reserve up to June 2024, a year in advance. And guess what? Those sell out incredibly fast, the Phantom Ranch cabins. And right now, they're at a minimal or half capacity because of the Trans-Canyon water pipeline, which they're currently working on in the Grand Canyon. So I would just keep advised of any advisories that are happening right now on the Grand Canyon website, and make sure to read about what's happening in the Grand Canyon. And you may be asking yourself, why can't I get a dang permit? Why is it so difficult? Well, There may be some restrictions in place in the Grand Canyon. Like for the past 2 years, they've been working on the Trans Canyon water pipeline, fixing it, repairing it. This past winter, the north rim of the Grand Canyon experienced snowfall and snow slides like never before, and over 300 feet of the pipeline was damaged. So the North Rim Lodge and all of the North Rim is without water at this time. So anyways, just read up about that. That is all on their website. Okay, it says that backcountry travelers must have their permit in their possession while in the backcountry. Once a camp is established, the permit must be attached to a pack tent or other equipment in plain view so it can be easily checked by rangers. These days, the Grand Canyon now, especially in the corridor campgrounds being Indian Garden, which is now known as Havasupai Gardens, Bright Angel Campground, Cottonwood Campground. Those are what they call the corridor campgrounds because they're the most popular. That's what everybody wants to hike, right? So those campgrounds have little display cases for you to put the permit in while you're there. That way everybody knows that that is where you're staying and that's your campsite, and nobody can take that from you, if that makes sense. Otherwise, this website just has some like hiking smart tips, etc. Again, I highly recommend you just read everything, click on all the links, read it all. So one thing I wanted to express here today is the permit cost. It's $10 per permit plus $12 per person or stock animal per night camped below the rim, and $12 per group per night camped above the rim, if that makes sense. Denied requests will not incur a charge. Permits canceled at least 4 days in advance will receive hiker credit minus a $10 cancellation charge, valid for 1 year. Backcountry Information Center charges are non-refundable. Permit holders will be responsible for paying park entrance fees upon arrival. So that means in addition to the backcountry permit that you obtain, you're also required to obtain entry into Grand Canyon. And guess what? That's $35 for a 7-day pass into the Grand Canyon, unless you have the yearly pass, which is what I get. Obviously, I go to all these national monuments, national parks. Y'all are coming along with me. It's $80 for a year, if that makes sense. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about here, and this is what gets my goat sometimes, let me tell you. I've been trying to get into May and June and July, and my God, you would think that I was asking for time with the Pope, a personal recommendation from the Pope. My Lord. The one thing I wanted to draw everybody's attention to is this beautiful table on their website. It says, for start date for hikes starting in. So for example, I was trying to get into May. You have to fax it in 4 months prior to the start date of your hike. So for May, it'd be April, March, February, January. So technically, you have until January the 1st to submit your request for May. Then how to apply. So this is where I wanted to do, again, a screen recording and a recording on the camera so that I can kind of walk you through how to do that. So why don't we go and do the 4-day, 3-night itinerary that I completed in July of 2022. I know. Okay, so this is the how to fill out the backcountry permit request form section of this. First of all, what you're going to do is you're going to bring up your little browser and type in backcountry permit Grand Canyon. I just Google it every time, honestly, just in case. It's usually the first link that comes up, so we're going to go ahead and click on that, backcountry permit Grand Canyon. Then again, like I said in the video, you should read all of this, right? Really good information here. Contains a ton of excellent sourced information. But today we're just going to scroll past all of this and go to the how to apply section. So the backcountry permit request form is actually a PDF file. You can see that here and under the how to apply section. So we're just going to click on the backcountry permit request form. It'll download it. And then I would recommend actually downloading it to your desktop and then bringing it up in Adobe Reader, right, on your desktop itself. So now that I have the backcountry permit opened in my reader, you can actually save this, and that's what's really important here. So the main thing right at the top, again, you should read all of this, right? Only one application is accepted per group. When applying for more than one trip at a time, please write a note of explanation, right? They give you the fax number for the application, which is at the top of the backcountry permit request form, when to apply, you know, for the best chance of success, submit your group's backcountry permit application during the earliest consideration period, right? So you want to submit it as soon as possible when the time allows for it. And then the main thing is the cost, right? And we'll have to calculate that down below. Let's go ahead and scroll down and see. So again, all this information at the top, very important, very helpful. But what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll down to the Backcountry Wilderness Use Permit application, and let's start filling this out. So I'm just going to go ahead. You type your last name and your first name. Again, applicant information. This is the person that's going to actually be submitting the form. So I'm just using the keys on my keyboard, just pressing tab to go to the next one. So my first name is Jillian. My last name is Smith. My street address, I don't have a middle initial, so I just put an X, you know. My street address, 123 Main Street. And again, you know, this allows for you to print it off and you can fill it out, but I prefer just to type it in here and then print it off. It's a lot easier, honestly, and it's readable, right? Because it's in printed type, so it's a lot nicer. I'm just pressing the tab key again on my keyboard, right? So city is going to be Phoenix, Arizona. Postal code 85044, country, United States. I like to type it out. You can just put USA or whatever, right? My email address, that's going to be hello at Jillian Camps, Arizona. Whoa, I can't type today, sorry, .com. Contact phone number, I would just put your phone number that you don't mind having on here. 520-555-8890 is my number. So when you get down to commercially guided trip, I have to tell you that you probably have the best possible chance if you say no, right? And a lot of times, guess what? For 90% of the people filling this out, the answer is going to be no, right? It's not a commercially guided trip, right? For group name, I just put NA, you know, not applicable. And then it just says the type of backcountry wilderness use requested. Check all that apply. So what are you doing in the canyon, right? Are you going to camp? Are you backpacking? For me, I'm doing both. So I always check backpacking and camping. Now, for this one, we're going to pretend that I'm doing the same trip that I did in July of 2022. So I want to show you exactly how I filled it out for the vlogs. Those are upcoming, by the way, just a little shameless plug. So I'm going to be showing you the vlogs that I did where we hiked down to Phantom Ranch on day 1, spent the night. Then on day 2, we did a day trip to Ribbon Falls and back, but still stayed at Phantom Ranch, right? And this was in July of last year. And then the third night, we stayed at Indian Garden, what's now known as Havasupai Falls. Then the fourth day, you hike out. So that is how we're going to fill this out, right? I actually did it with my coworker and my friend. So we had a group size of 2 total, right? Entry location. This is where you put in the trailhead that you're starting out in. You know what I mean? So now we're going to put in the entry location. This is where you're going to enter the Grand Canyon, right? We've talked about this. On the South Rim, there's two main entry points that you're going to put if you're starting from the South Rim. Now, if you're starting from the North Rim, I can't help you. No, I'm just kidding. So if you're starting from the North Rim, guess what? There's one main trail. And again, that's only if you're doing the corridor trails, right? Don't even get me started on the other entry points. On the North Rim, there's only the North Kaibab Trail. On the South Rim, there's 2, right? There's the South Kaibab Trail, and then there's Bright Angel Trailhead, okay? So if we scroll in here, so here's the South Kaibab Trailhead here on the South Rim. And then if we scroll over to the left here, you can see the Bright Angel Trail right here. The Bright Angel Trailhead, which starts right here by the Bright Angel Lodge, right? You just kind of go down and start on the trailhead. Voila. So there's 2 choices to make here, right? And in this case, we started at the Bright Angel. Exit location, guess what? Also Bright Angel in our case, right? And you can do 2 different itineraries, right? So this is like choice number 1, choice number 2. And again, because we just want to try and get a permit for one, you obviously want to submit the permit for your choice number 1 being the time that you actually want to go. And then choice number 2, possibly that following weekend or starting on a different day. And I'll explain that here in a minute. So in this case, today's Wednesday, July the 5th. In this case, let's go ahead and pretend like we're going to start on the 7th. And guess what? That's when I started in 2022. Cool, huh? Camp location use area, Bright Angel Campground. And then the date again. This is for choice number 2. See, guess what? Maybe you move it up by 1 day. You see what I'm saying? So instead of starting on the 7th, which is Friday, instead you may want to start on Saturday, the 8th, right? And then go the 8th, and then the 9th, and the 10th, and then hike out on the 11th. But choice number 1 is going to be starting on the 7th, and the 8th, and the 9th, and then hiking out on the 10th, if that makes sense. Bright Angel Campground. So then this case goes back to choice 1. So that'd be the 7th, the night of the 7th, going down to Bright Angel Campground and staying there. Night of July 8th, still at Bright Angel Campground. Then this would be the 9th, just moving it up by 1 day, Campground. And then the 9th, this would be Indian Garden, which is now Havasupai Gardens. And then this would be the 10th. Havasupai Gardens, if that makes sense. And then the other thing is that you can copy paste this or just open it up again and put in multiple choices, right? So you can have like a second page and just do choice number 3 and choice number 4. Do you see what I'm saying? And you can have different dates. Like you could put this date as next weekend. So instead of the 7th, you can start on the 14th. And then this next day would be the 15th. And then this next day would be the 16th. You see? So you could change the dates around. So that next day would be the 16th, right? And you can change it around like that. Again, it's the night. So this means that you start your hike on the 7th. The night of the 7th, you're staying at Bright Angel Campground. And then you wake up early and start your hike again. And guess what? We're camping again at Bright Angel Campground. So Bright Angel Campground for 2 nights. And then Havasupai Gardens, right? That's halfway between Phantom Ranch and the top of the South Rim, if that makes sense. Along Bright Angel Trail. So you're staying at Havasupai Gardens. Does that make sense? Okay. And then for additional choices, you can do alternative dates. So let's say that you wanted the next weekend as well. All right, well, let's try for 7/21. And it says, note, alternate start dates only. So, I mean, let's go ahead and shoot for the moon here and do the 21st through the 25th or something. Let's say that you're free. Now, this means that they could give you a permit that starts on July 25th. So that'd be night 1, July 25th, night 2, July 26th, night 3, July 27th. So only put in dates here if you truly want to start on those days, right? Otherwise, you can back it off and just put July 21st through the 23rd if you just want to start between Friday and Sunday, but not have like a midweek, right? Obviously, guess what? The best chance is to get a midweek itinerary. So if you have an itinerary that starts between, I would say between Monday and Thursday or Monday and Wednesday, you have the best chance of getting those because guess what? Everybody wants to hike on the weekend. All right. So, all right. Let's continue. And additional choices, you can reverse the itinerary. So let's say that you start at Havasupai Gardens, then go to Bright Angel Campground for 2 nights. Well, that's kind of silly. I never click on that. Similar/nearby campsites. Nearby could be 5 miles away. So keep this in mind. I usually don't click on here. Minimum group size, I don't click on that either. Trip length, number of nights, no. Because this will give you a ton of open options. They'll run these options and just hand you over a permit. And guess what? You don't have a choice and you have to pay the fees. So just use caution when filling out these additional choices because let me tell you, they will attempt to give you a permit for whatever choices that you make down here, if that makes sense. So, okay, next section, we're going to be talking about the mode of transportation, parking location, Bright Angel Trailhead. A lot of times I just put that, or you can put like Bright Angel Lodge, you know what I mean? Is this a rental? I live in Arizona, so I usually click no. Registration plate number, you just put the registration number like AAA123, state, province, Arizona. Permit fee application, name on card, Jillian X. Smith. And now, a lot of times what I do is I do check this use hiker credit on file, but if you don't have any hiker credit, it's no problem. You don't need to enter it in. Okay, now let's talk about the total amount authorized. This is important, and I've messed this up a bunch. So it's very important, actually. Okay, so let's scroll up to this and scroll down to the permit costs. Here we are. Let's read this very carefully, because guess what? They change how much the permit is every year almost. I feel like it's been going up by $1 every year. So just read this 40 times before making your final purchase price. Okay, so permit cost, $10 per permit. All right, so we got $10 right off the bat here. I'm going to bring up a text editor thing. So it's going to be $10. Why is that text so tiny? Really? Can anybody read that? The answer is no. Great. Love how nobody can see this. This will be perfect. Okay, $10. That's the permit cost, plus $12 per person per night camped below the rim, and $12 per group per night camped above the rim. Denied applications do not incur a charge. Okay, $12 per person. How many people are we having for this group size? 2 people. So that's $24 per person. So it's $24 per person times how many nights are we camped below the rim? That is 3 nights. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I did not change that amount, right? And this is still 1, 2, 3, right? I want the same 3 nights. So let's read this again. $10 per permit. Yes, we have that. And $12 per person per night. So we have 2 people. That includes yourself. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. In the group number, you have to include yourself. So in the group size, say that you're the one applying, Jillian Smith applying for an application. I am going to be hiking, but I'm also taking my brother. That's 2 people total. So in the group size, make sure to include yourself. In the permit cost, make sure to include the total number in the group size, which typically includes you, right? Don't forget that. Very important. So $24 times 3. Alrighty, here we go. So now the permit cost. Let's go back up. Let's make sure we got this. $10 per permit plus $12 per person. That's $24 for 2 people per night camp below the rim times 3. So that would be $72. Let's see. It's going to be $72 plus $10, right, for the permit cost. That is going to equal $82 total. So then what you do is you scroll down here to this little thing at the bottom, and where it says the total amount authorized, guess what we're going to put? We're going to put $82.00. You don't have to put the 0 cents, but you put $82, right? Total. And then guess what? We cannot input our credit card number here. We have to print it off. You have to print it off and write it in. So you print this off. Now we're done filling it out. You filled it out. Great job. Fill it out, print it off, and then you write in your credit card number and expiration date. Don't forget to sign it. And then you send it off. What I usually do is I fax it. So here's the fax number up here, 928-638-2125. In order to make sure that it goes through, a lot of times what I do is, I know this is kind of silly, but I pay for faxing. I go to like a UPS or like Kinko's. Is there even Kinko's anymore? I don't know. A Kinko's store. and you ask them to fax it for you, it'll cost you like $1. Okay. So that's what I do a lot of times. I go to the UPS store. They have faxing services. Guess what? Your library probably does free faxing as well. You pay for that from your taxes. So go to your library, they can fax it for you as well. But I choose to go to UPS because it's guaranteed delivery or whatever. They give you that little sheet that says it was faxed. You know, you get like the little confirmation sheet and away you go. It's like $1. So anyways, that's what I choose to do. And that's how I do it. I fax it in because guess what? With the mail these days, you just don't know. And I would just be careful mailing this. Okay, is that it? I think that's it. Okay, so hey, thank you guys so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope that you get the itinerary that you put in a request for if you're watching this video and are about to put in the request. Good luck, and I know you're going to get the permit that you asked for. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.